Hi, my dear Astro family. Today I'm here to speak about the upcoming new moon in the sign of Aries. So basically, we are going to be having the first new moon, which is marking the astrological year for us. So it's not just a two-week period why we should be looking at this, but it's kind of like giving us a little bit of a clue of what we should be expecting in the next 1 year. And this new moon definitely looks interesting and to a certain extent quite challenging as well. So what we are going to be covering is the meaning of the new moon. This new moon is actually conjuncting Chiron and Mercury, so we will be looking at that. And also we're going to be covering towards the second part of the video another fixed star, another asteroid actually called Salacia. So stay with me. Now, this new moon is going to be happening on 1st of April on 11°30' of Aries, and that is going to be 6:24 a.m. Greenwich, England time. So, but if you are new to my channel, then my name is AstroViktor, a teacher, a professional astrologer. I have been doing astrology for 20 years. I do lectures twice a week at the weekends for my students. So if you are interested in becoming a member of my tribe, then you might want to be going on my website, AstroViktor.com, and check out the subscription plan I offer. And also you might want to be hitting the subscribe button so that you are notified about my upcoming forecasts and teaching videos. Now, new moon, Chiron and Mercury conjunction. Well, it's very easy to be heard by words. So that's one of the literal interpretation of this combination. But also, Chiron is something which is requiring us to do an element of a healing. Now, I'd like to point out that this Chiron, which is on 12° at the moment, has been here already. And that was going on last year, 2021, in June, July. So we might need to be revisiting some of the topics around the healing, what we started around that time. So you might want to be asking yourself the question, what was going on in my life in 2020, June, July, and then how can I recover from that? But also this could be a period of time when you are actually tested whether you've done all the necessary healing when it healing when it comes to your primary needs, because it happens in the sign of Aries, and Aries is about your survival instincts overall. So something that you started off kind of like a healing process, and we might need to carry on around that part. Now, the fact that it's conjuncting Mercury, which in the sign of Aries can be quite abrasive, it's kind of like trying to run before actually it knows how to walk, or trying to, you know, be loud a little bit because it wants to be heard, it wants to be understood. Sometimes Mercury here tends to be running the mouth quite a lot, but there is no meaning to the words. And Chiron is actually inviting you to slow down a little bit and then look at, you know, what are the healing elements of those words? Something that you have already healed, and now it might get tested by looking at how patient you are. Now, Mercury is very fast in the sign of Aries. So the danger here is that it has got a tendency to skip over steps. And then if we skip over steps, then are you going to have to suffer from the consequences later on? And that would be the Chiron part of it. Now, Chiron in the sign of Aries is asking you the question to look at who you truly are. What matters the most to you? What energy do you want to portray to others? This combination can be a little bit rough around the edges. Sometimes it is about boredom. And you know what? I want to do something else. And then I want to start that very quickly. Kind of like not feeling that I'm already there where I want to be. And then actually we become very impatient about it. So Chiron is on the forefront, the leading kind of like the parade here with this little stellium. So the question is that Chiron on 12°, which I said it has already visited a couple of times before, in what ways did you become wiser? Don't forget to remember the pain. Do not hurry. Maybe you need to be patient in a sense that, you know what, it might take a 3 month extra, but I have been waiting for a decade or for a year or God knows how long for. So it's worth the wait. There is a need here with this constellation to understand that the emerged self might be eager to step into new territories, but this is not a race. Now, the fact that we've got a stellium in the sign of Aries, which is the very much of the first sign of the zodiac, so it really brings in plenty of energy around how you portray yourself. What is your true desire? A stellium pretty much in the sign of Aries is about how you leading your own life. Aries is a leadership sign. It's about grasping the opportunity. It's about what type of impression I make to others. It's kind of like the ways I initiate things, the initial perceptions people might be having of us. So stellium here is kind of like, I'm not going to be doing things anymore what other people are telling me. Sometimes it is a little bit of a moody energy. It can talk about how much I want to evolve as a person or how much I want to be changing my personality. But we are here to learn about patience and self-control. Sometimes the Aries stellium can be a little bit self-centered. And it can feel lonely as well. Sometimes it represents or presents a complex and confusing set of behaviors that people actually find hard to read. And with the Chiron element, there is something which is telling you that, you know what, it's okay to be different. It can show certain inner strength and weaknesses of the physical body as well. So, you know, that maybe I don't feel good about myself. I don't really represent the true self. I might be giving mixed messages. I might want to be changing my style. I might be very body conscious overall. And I'm actually afraid of getting sick. I want to be walking into a room with confidence, and I want to portray that confidence to others. So it might be asking you how much actually appearance becomes kind of like important for you. Now, this could be a brilliant time to launch a new project, for instance, or to becoming a pioneer or going solo in your business endeavors. It's about taking action, not being still. But the fact that we have got Chiron there, it kind of indicates a healing crisis. In order for me to become a pioneer, I'm going to have to dig deep and then look at, you know, where certain type of pain is coming from, where my issues are originated from. Sometimes with Chiron transits, what happens is that things going to get worse before actually it gets better. And the question here is that, are we actually trying to treat the symptoms, or am I trying to get to the bottom of any type of problem? So this Chiron energy here tells you that if you want to heal, you're going to have to bring some of the wounds out of the subconscious, the unconscious first. Now, also there is a asteroid in the game here, which is currently on almost an 7 degree, and it's called Salacia. So it's tightly conjuncting actually this energy here. Now, if you want to be looking up where Salacia is in your chart, then its astrological number is 120347. So you can go on astro.com and then have a look at add this number onto the additional objects box, and then it's going to pop up in your chart. For instance, in my case, it is on 15 degree of Aquarius, so it's tightly conjuncting my Juno as well as my Sun. So it becomes very prominent in my chart. I would say Salacia becomes prominent if it is conjuncting any of the angles in your chart on any of your personal planets especially. Now, Salacia was discovered on 13 degree of Pisces. in 2004. She is the goddess of the salt water. Salacia was discovered on September 22nd, 2004, in case someone wants to be looking at its discovery chart, because it always gives you an additional information what it might actually represent in our chart. It has got a 272-year orbit. She's a little further out than Pluto, so she's part of the Kuiper belt. And what she was interested in is actually preserving her virginity. Now, the story behind it is that Neptune wanted to marry her, but she was very rigid about it. She did not want to get married. She wanted to preserve her virginity, as I said. So Neptune had to send a dolphin to speak to her and convince her to be his wife. And eventually she gave in and they became married. By the way, Salacia has entered the sign of Aries in 2017. But let's just have a look at what Salacia is actually indicating. Now, throughout 2018 and 2019, Chiron actually entered the sign of Aries as well. And the very first thing Chiron did was making a conjunction to Salacia. And Salacia is a sexual asteroid. But she is more on the subtle way. She is discussing the sexuality in a more appropriate way. Astrologically, Salacia represents extreme erotic fascination or interest, crudely expressed sexual intent, socially unacceptable, often illicit sexual activities overall. So actually, we can expect some sexual topics coming up with this new moon. Maybe it is going to be about whether there is enough sexual activity going on in my relationship, or unfortunately, it can bring up topic where I have been wounded before sexually, whether it's rape or being stalked on the street or someone who actually cheated on me. And I'm going to have to be dealing with all these type of situations. Now, I recently had I read in one of the horary groups where there was this woman who has been dating this guy for a month, and after 2 weeks the guy was like, you know what, I've got so much debt, I would like you to chip in and then help me pay off the debts. And then a couple of weeks after, the guy was like, you know what, I would like you to pay me a prostitute, because I really want to have a threesome, and so forth. And the lady had an inquiry whether she should be actually going forward with this relationship or not, because she kind of feels like it's a karmic connection overall. Now, this is the type of new moon in Aries with this Salacia and Chiron type of conjunction, what is going on, that somehow our pride is getting hurt. Now, there is another facet of the myth included with Salacia, the fact that she was actually very successful in hiding from Neptune. She was the goddess of the bottom of the oceans, where the sun's beam were kind of unable to penetrate, and that's where she was actually hiding. Now, this is a Neptunian quality, because Neptune is so good at hiding and escaping that actually it's very hard to find, very hard to find it in a sense. So interpreting Salacia from a psychological viewpoint, it could really talk about the hidden part of our own psyche, the depth to it, something which we are completely unaware of. And this could be something, again, which gets highlighted with this new moon energy. Now, after the wedding between Neptune and Salacia, basically Salacia became the ruler of the sunny, calm surfaces of seas and springs and so forth. And then she started ruling over water, which had high minerals. Now, that's very interesting, because beforehand, she was the goddess of the bottom of the ocean. And now she becomes the goddess of these high mineral type of healing energy, water-related principles. So it's very much about Actually, in the chart, Salacia, prominent Salacia can indicate that I tend to be living my life in the shadows for a very long time. But at one point, there is a turning around and I become very visible. For instance, that's what for the Sun and Salacia conjunction actually can represent in the chart. Sometimes it is about we wanting to hide from our darkest aspects. We don't allow them to come to the surface. Otherwise, we would be having this very bright and sunny personality, which would be very convincing to others as well. So this new moon is definitely asking you to look at in what ways are you trying to actually hide your primary needs, how you can get out of that, how you can come away, you know, from the fact that I want to be hiding, I don't want to be showing my kind of like warrior side to others. And when we are actually trying to hide our pain, we tend to be overcompensating in our in other fields of our lives. So the question here could be, in what ways are you trying to overcompensate? Are you just trying to heal the symptoms rather than digging deeper and actually saying out loud, because there is Mercury there as well, that I do have a problem? Now, you know, I think it's very interesting to look at, because Chiron is the wound and it actually can represent the physical wound as well. And it's worth having a look at the stages of the wound healing. And there are 4 stages. The very first one is the heostasis phases, when the wound is actually clots. And it happens within seconds. It happens very quickly. And it starts when the blood leaks out of the body, then the blood vessels constrict to restrict the blood flow. But it happens in a very, very quick way. Now, this, from a psychological perspective, is kind of like the immediate reaction we have to a painful situation. And just like the wound, it starts clotting. So all of a sudden, I've got a defense mechanism going on. And what is your defense mechanism? The next one is at the inflammatory phase. And the inflammation is actually something which controls the bleeding and prevent infection as well. During the inflammatory phase, all the damaged cells and pathogens and bacteria somehow are removed from the wounded area. So the inflammation is a very Mars-related activity, actually. Back in the days, Jupiter was more of the ruler of the blood. But nowadays, we tend to be looking at Mars as well. I tend to say that Mars is more of the outpouring blood, kind of like the bleeding element, and Jupiter is the circulation of the blood within the body. But if you think about that inflammation, it's kind of like indicating to us that when we have got that pain within us and it doesn't get dealt with, then it gets bigger. And obviously, kind of like the inflammation is swelling, and the color of the wound starts kind of being different in a sense. It's kind of like a suppressed anger type of energy, what this inflammatory phase is actually indicating to me. The third phase would be the proliferative phase, when the wound is rebuilt with new tissues made up of collagen and extracellular matrix. And basically the wound contracts as new tissues are built. And a new network of blood vessels must be constructed so that the granulation tissue can be healthy and receive sufficient oxygen and nutrients overall. And if it becomes dark, then it can be a sign of infection or just poor perfusion overall. And the last is the maturation phase, when the cells that had been used to repair the wound, but which are no longer needed, are removed. And those cells are actually dying off. And I think the fourth phase from a psychological perspective is very much about that Chiron element, that we are dealing with that wound in a sense. We are remodeling the pain and we might make it our best strength overall. And it typically happens 20 days after the injury, but it can lead up to a year or more as well. So I think overall, this new moon is about looking at your primary identity wounds and how it should be actually helping you to see your uniqueness in yourself, but in others as well. In what ways do you have self-worth wound, which needs to be transforming into something healthy? And maybe it's about self-reliance. Maybe it's about the fact that you are able to take care of yourself. Maybe it's about if I initiate something, I don't necessarily need to get burnt. Maybe it's about realizing that you are a powerful communicator because there is a Mercury involved here. And I can speak out loud about my struggles, really. It might be about how I'm going to be dealing with anxiety, how I'm going to be actually having successful attempts to have a more loving and caring and understanding relationship with a wonderful partner. Because Aries is the relationship axis overall, alongside with Libra. So it's about how I'm relating to others as well. Now, in the world, of course, this could talk about the primary needs of the army. We know we have got a war going on in the world. And this could really talk about how much they are wounded because there might not be enough supply. It does talk about their basic needs. Now, another interesting thing which we should be mentioning about this new moon is that the ruler, Mars, is actually a few days after the new moon, is having a exact conjunction to Saturn. And well, this conjunction is very, very prominent. Firstly, two malefics are meeting, and together from a traditional perspective, it's called the wrongdoers together. Mars is actually pushing Saturn there to push up towards the wall with loads of strength. So imagine that kind of like with a human force, I've got this huge blockage in front of me and then I'm kind of trying to knock that over. And of course, it's not always going to be successful. It's like trying to achieve something and then I'm getting into this huge brick wall, which can lead to frustrations. And then you kind of realize that the plans are failing. And then it leads to some type of argument and disputes. And the Saturn Mars conjunction is actually squaring the lunar nodes, which is really much talking about karmic challenges. This is something which has come up before, and now we have to be dealing with it. We have to speak about it. We have to be fighting against it. But Mars is the ruler of the South Node this year as well. So maybe there is an element of a pride to leave behind, something kind of like calling for a defeat in a sense. But losing a fight doesn't mean that I've lost the battle. So it can really talk about re-strategizing as well. Now, another interesting factor here is that Saturn is actually in the midpoint of Venus and Mars. So kind of like Venus and Mars is definitely talking about, shall we, have peace or shall we go into a war? And this is kind of talking to me about that all these type of attempts to kind of have a peace between Ukraine and Russia is going to meet some huge wars overall. But forget about the war. Let's have a look at on a personal level. It is very much about the amount of effort and work you put into. Probably Mars is told here to pause for a second. It is a temporary stop only, just to regroup your energy and find a better strategy overall. And this could actually indicate in the world as well that the war is going to have a temporary stop. But if that's the case, I only believe that it's going to be happening for a short amount of time. Now, as I mentioned, this is the relationship axis where this new moon is taking place. So with that Saturnian flavor there is a reprogramming going on in the relationship department. Why? Because Saturn and Mars not only conjuncting Venus, but there is also Juno there, which is very much about the alignment and the partnership we are making, what type of agreements, financial and constructual things we are trying to put together. Mars needs to learn to be more mindful, to kind of come up with that master plan, to slow down a little bit, to see things clearly. It's kind of like having a window cleaning to be done before actually Mars is looking at other options. I think the message here is that in one way or another, we're going to have to stop the social unrestlessness, but at the same time, I pretty much feel that it's not going to stop anyway. So, by the way, this Mars and Saturn conjunction on the 4th of April is going to be happening on 22 degrees of Aquarius. Now, the ancient used to name this astrological phenomenon as the conjunction of the evil doers. And looking at the event chart erected for Ukraine, for instance, for Kiev, then actually it's happening very close by to their rising sign. So I kind of feel like that this is talking about some adversities and harms which the country actually can be expecting, unfortunately, because it happens in an air sign. This could really talk about some air strikes or winds or storms, which is somehow going to be slowing down the war situation. But this could actually talk about some airborne particles as well, such as viruses and COVID situation and all those type of things overall. This could really talk about some air-related technological harm, which they might be unfortunately struggling from in the upcoming 6 weeks overall. But it could raise some awareness to humanitarian issues as well. Something to do with difficulties when it comes to groups or masses or struggles when it comes to liberties and freedom overall. So this is a little bit of a challenging new moon energy, in my opinion, to Ukraine overall. Now, I did look at Moscow, Russia chart as well. And also these malefics are happening on the angles as well. For Moscow, it actually happening on the midheaven. And that's something to do with how they are pursued by other countries. That can talk about some political upheavals overall, or this could talk about how demanding they are trying to be, and they're gonna go very far to demand, you know, certain type of administrations to be happening in the world. And it could really talk about kind of like how their ego, because there is a Cancer rising sign happening for this Saturn and Mars for them. And this could really talk about that they are defensive and kind of like having that vulnerable type of attitude. So overall, I think it kind of shows that they are going to be getting attacked from a political perspective as well, and there is going to be kind of like a response to it from them. So this is how I see this upcoming new moon. I hope it helps you to prepare, and see you soon with another video. Bye bye.